Captain Kim Hyun pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation deck and watched the alien ships drift past Earth like silent giants. Some were as big as mountains, their surfaces covered in strange lights that pulsed like heartbeats. Others looked like they were made of pure crystal, catching the sunlight and throwing rainbows across the darkness of space. It was another ordinary day in the most extraordinary job in the galaxy. "Sir, we have 3 more ships asking for permission to dock," said Lieutenant Park Soo-min from her station. Her fingers danced across the control panel, translating messages from languages that had no human words. 2 are carrying wounded soldiers. 1 is asking for fuel. Kim nodded and turned away from the window. After 10 years of running Earth's orbital station, he had learned to read the signs. When alien ships arrived, damaged and desperate, it usually meant another big battle had happened somewhere in the galaxy. When they asked for fuel, it meant they were planning to fight again soon. Earth sat right in the middle of the biggest war the galaxy had ever seen. For over 200 years, ancient alien races had been fighting each other across the stars. The Zephyrians, who looked like walking crystals, fought the Korthax, who were like a giant hive of insects that could think as one mind. The Luminari were made of pure energy and could barely be seen by human eyes. There were dozens of other species, each with their own reasons for fighting, but somehow, Earth had become the one place in the galaxy where the fighting stopped. It had started by accident. When humans first discovered faster-than-light travel, they found themselves right in the middle of this ancient war. Instead of picking a side or running away, they had done something that surprised everyone. They offered to help anyone who was hurt, regardless of which side they were on. Dr. Libiora finished cleaning her hands after treating her latest patient. The Luminari soldier had been hit by some kind of energy weapon that had turned part of his light body into static. It had taken her 3 hours to figure out how to stabilize him, working with equipment that was half human technology and half alien science. She walked to the medical bay window and looked out at the ships. Floating near the station, a massive Korthax hive ship sat next to a sleek Zephorian cruiser. 6 months ago, those 2 ships would have been trying to destroy each other. Now their crews were sharing the same cafeteria, eating food that had been specially prepared to not poison any of the 12 different species currently on the station. "Amazing, isn't it?" said Dr. Kong Soo-jin, joining her at the window. 20 years ago, I was just a small-town doctor on Earth. Now I'm treating aliens with medical conditions that don't exist in any human textbook. Biora smiled. "Remember when our biggest worry was whether we had enough bandages? Now we have to stock quantum healing gel and liquid starlight?" They both laughed, but there was something tired in their voices. The war had been going on for so long that even the moments of peace felt heavy. Kim walked through the station's main corridor, past the diplomatic meeting rooms where alien ambassadors tried to negotiate temporary truces. He could hear raised voices from behind one door, probably the Zephyrians and Korthax arguing about mining rights in some distant system. Tomorrow, they would be back to shooting at each other, but for now, they were just arguing with words. Station had grown over the years. What started as a simple refueling stop had become a small city in space. There were medical facilities, repair bays, diplomatic quarters, even a small market where different species could trade goods. Humans had become the galaxy's landlords, maintaining the one place where everyone could exist together without violence. But Kim had noticed something troubling lately. The ships were staying longer than usual. Conversations stopped when humans walked by. There were whispered meetings in languages that the translation computers couldn't understand. The usual patterns of the war were changing. Ensign Choi Minho ran up to Kim with a worried expression. "Sir, you need to see this. We just received a transmission from the outer edge of the galaxy. It's strange." Kim followed him to the communications center where Park Soo-min was working with 2 alien technicians to decode a message. The signal was weak and broken, but Kim could make out fragments. Ships that eat light. Nothing left behind. They're not like us. The darkness is coming. Then the signal cut out completely. Kim felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of managing the station, he had never heard such fear in an alien voice. The different species might hate each other, but they all understood war. They knew how to fight, how to win, how to lose. But this transmission spoke of something else entirely, something that didn't fight wars but simply erased everything in its path. He looked around the communications center at the faces of humans and aliens working together, trying to understand what the message meant. For years, Earth had been the calm center of the galaxy's storm. But storms could change direction. And sometimes the eye of the storm was the most dangerous place to be. Outside the windows, more ships were arriving. But for the first time, Kim wondered if they were coming to Earth for safety, or if they were bringing danger with them. The alarm bells rang through the station like screaming birds. Out then Kim Hyon ran toward the emergency bay, his boots echoing against the metal floors. Behind him, medical teams rushed with equipment that hummed and glowed with alien technology. Commander Yoon Ji-ho was already at the docking bay when the massive Zephyrian ship limped into view. The Crystal Dawn looked like a shattered piece of rainbow glass floating in space. Half of its beautiful crystal structure was gone, and strange purple light leaked from the broken edges like blood. "What happened to them?" whispered Ensign Choi. Minho staring at the dying ship. "I don't know," Yoon replied, "but we're about to find out." The rescue took 4 hours. The Zephyrian crew members were barely alive, their crystal bodies flickering between solid and transparent like broken television screens. Dr. Lee Biora worked frantically to save them. Using medical equipment she had never seen before, the Zephyrian captain was a tall being named Cathara, whose body normally sparkled like a diamond. Now she looked like cracked glass, and when she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "It came from the dark between stars," she said weakly. "Ships that were not ships, beings that were not beings. They did not fight us. Simply, ... made us not exist." Kim leaned forward. "What do you mean, made you not exist?" "3 of our worlds," Cathara whispered. "Billions of our people. One moment they were there, sending us messages, laughing, living. The next moment, ... nothing. Not destroyed, not dead, simply ... gone. As if they had never existed at all." Dr. Kong Soo-jin examined the wounded Zephyrians and found something that made her hands shake. The injuries were unlike anything she had ever seen. It was as if parts of their bodies had been erased from reality itself, leaving wounds that went deeper than flesh and bone. "Their quantum structure has been damaged," she explained to Kim later. "It's like someone took an eraser to the basic building blocks of their existence." Within days, more ships arrived with similar stories. The Korthax spoke of hive minds that had simply stopped thinking, leaving empty shells behind. The Luminari described energy beings that had flickered out, like candles in the wind. All of them spoke of the same thing, the void hegemony. Admiral Nam Tae-young sat in his office, reading reports from human colonies at the edge of the galaxy. His face grew pale with each message. "Colony 7 has gone silent," he told Kim. "Their last transmission was 3 words. The darkness comes." Colony 12 sent a video message. But when we played it back, there was nothing there. Just empty rooms and empty streets, like everyone had simply vanished. The situation grew worse when the alien fleets began looking at Earth differently. For years, they had seen humanity as neutral peacekeepers. Now they saw Earth as something valuable that needed to be protected or controlled. The Korthax ambassador, a creature that looked like a walking anthill, approached Kim with what they called a generous offer. "Let us protect your world," it said in its buzzing voice. "Our ships will surround Earth. Our soldiers will live on your surface. You will be safe under our care." The Luminari made a similar offer, speaking through a translator because their energy voices were too bright for human ears. "We propose quantum custodianship," they said. "Your consciousness patterns will be preserved in our memory banks. You will exist forever, perfectly safe." Kim realized that both offers meant the same thing: the end of human independence. The aliens were scared. Scared people did desperate things. The tension exploded during a council meeting when a Zephyrian diplomat accused the Korthax of planning to use Earth as a military base. The Korthax replied by showing evidence that the Luminari were trying to convert human minds into energy patterns they could control. "Enough," Kim shouted. standing up so fast his chair fell over. For 200 years you've been fighting each other while Earth remained neutral.
Ow!
You want to drag us into your war because you're afraid of something new? The alien diplomats fell silent, but Kim could see the fear in their strange eyes. They had fought each other for centuries and understood that kind of warfare. But the void hegemony was something else entirely, something that didn't conquer or destroy, but simply made things stop existing. Dr. Shin Hae-won made a discovery that changed everything. While studying fragments of technology recovered from void attacks, she found something impossible. The metal wasn't just damaged. Parts of it existed in a state between real and unreal. Kim, the void hegemony doesn't use conventional weapons. They use something that affects the basic structure of reality itself. Most species can barely perceive them because they exist partially outside our dimension. Kim felt a chill. But humans can see them clearly, according to the testimonies. Yes, there's something about human consciousness that allows us to perceive multidimensional beings. We might be the only species that can truly fight them. Outside the station windows, more ships arrived every day. But they weren't coming to Earth for medical treatment or diplomatic meetings anymore. They were coming because Earth was the only place in the galaxy that felt safe, because humanity might be the only hope the galaxy had left. Kim looked out at the growing fleet and realized that Earth's time as a neutral zone was ending. The storm was changing, and soon they would have to choose between remaining safely in the eye or stepping out to face the wind. The emergency alert came at 3:47 in the morning, Earth time. Captain Kim Hae-on woke to red flashing lights and the sound of alarms that meant only one thing. Something terrible had happened. Lieutenant Colonel O'Dehai's voice crackled through the communication system from her scouting ship near the Centauri system. "Sir, you need to see this. I'm sending the data now, but I don't think you'll believe it." Kim rushed to the command center, still wearing his sleeping clothes. The main screen showed the Centauri system, humanity's closest neighbor, home to 3 billion people across 4 planets. But something was wrong with the image. "Where is everyone?" asked Lieutenant Park Soo-min, staring at the screen. The planets were still there. The cities were still there. The buildings stood perfectly intact, and the lights were still on. But there was no movement anywhere. It happened 17 minutes ago, O'Dehai reported. "I was watching the system when I don't know how to describe it. There was a flash of darkness, like someone turned off the lights of the universe for a split second. When it was over, everyone was gone." Kim felt his stomach drop. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "I mean gone, sir. Not dead, not destroyed. Gone. I've scanned every planet, every moon, every space station. The buildings are perfect. The machines are still running. But there's no one there. It's like 3 billion people just stopped existing." The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in recorded history, every major alien species agreed on something: the void hegemony had to be stopped. We're useless against an enemy that could make entire populations simply disappear. Dr. Shin Hae-won worked day and night in her laboratory, studying the strange readings from the Centauri attack. What she found made her hands shake as she called Kim to her office. "They're not using weapons in any sense we understand," she explained, showing him charts covered in numbers and symbols. "They're using something that affects the quantum foundation of reality itself. Most alien species can barely perceive them because they exist partially outside our normal dimensions." Kim studied the data, trying to understand. But humans can see them? That's the strange part. According to every report we've received, humans can see void ships clearly while aliens describe them as dark blurs or shadows. There's something about human consciousness that exists on multiple quantum frequencies at once. This discovery led to humanity's first real combat mission in the Galactic War. Captain Ru Dongmin was chosen to lead a mixed fleet of human and alien ships against a void probe that had appeared near the Vega system. The battle was unlike anything in recorded history. Ru found himself commanding ships from 6 different species, all following his orders because human pilots were the only ones who could see the enemy clearly. "Target is moving 3 degrees starboard," Ru called out to the Zephyrian captain beside him. "Fire when I give the signal." The alien captain's crystal form flickered with confusion. "I see nothing. Human. Only shadows and darkness. Trust me, Rue said. I can see it perfectly. The battle lasted for hours. The void ship kept appearing and disappearing, existing in several dimensions at once. Human pilots guided alien weapons through reality storms while their crews worked together in ways they had never imagined possible. They won, but barely. Half the fleet was destroyed, and the survivors brought back disturbing news. The void hegemony weren't typical aliens. They were beings that had once been mortal, like everyone else, but had transformed themselves into something that existed between dimensions. They used to be alive, Rue reported to the emergency council. I could see them clearly through the walls of their ship. They looked like they had been people once, but now there's something else. Something that feeds on the collapse of organized reality. Dr. Libora examined the few survivors of the battle and made another frightening discovery. The human pilots who had been closest to the void ship were changed. Their brain patterns showed activity in areas that didn't exist in normal human minds. It's like they've been partially pulled into another dimension, she explained to Kim. They can see things the rest of us can't. They describe colors that don't exist and sounds that have no source. The implications were terrifying. Same multi-dimensional space. The very thing that made them useful in fighting the enemy might also make them vulnerable to becoming like them. More ships arrived at Earth every day, but now they came for a different reason. We're gathering for the greatest military alliance in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together, united by the understanding that the void hegemony threatened everyone. Kim stood on the observation deck, watching as hundreds of ships from dozens of species formed into battle groups. Korthak's hive ships worked alongside Zephyrian cruisers. Luminary energy vessels coordinated with human destroyers. The sight should have filled him with hope, but instead he felt a deep worry. Earth was no longer the safe eye of the storm. The void hegemony was coming, and when they arrived, humanity would have to choose between remaining hidden or stepping forward to face an enemy that could erase them from existence itself. The storm was changing direction, and Earth was directly in its path. The first sign that the main battle had begun was when Earth's moon started to change color. What had been silver and white for billions of years slowly turned a deep purple that hurt to look at directly. Captain Kim Hain stood in the command center, watching in horror as the void hegemony's flagship, the Entropy Crown, hovered above Luna like a massive black spider. The ship was so large it cast shadows across entire continents, and wherever its shadow fell, things began to simply stop existing. They're converting the moon into some kind of weapon, reported Dr. Shinhei-1 from her monitoring station. The quantum readings are off all our charts. They finish whatever they're doing, they'll be able to erase entire star systems with a single shot. Kim looked out at the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Ships from 40 different species floated in formation around Earth, all following human commanders, because only humans could see the enemy clearly. It should have been the greatest moment in military history, but Kim felt only fear. All units, this is command, he spoke into his communicator. The enemy is beginning their final assault. Remember, humans guide, aliens fight. Stay together and we might all live to see tomorrow. The battle began when the first void ships emerged from the darkness between dimensions. Two alien eyes, they appeared as moving shadows that hurt to look at. But human pilots could see them perfectly, twisted vessels that seemed to be made from crystallized emptiness itself. Engineer Young Minjae worked frantically in the station's engineering section, alongside alien technicians from 6 different species. They had discovered something incredible and terrifying. Human consciousness naturally anchored local spacetime, keeping reality stable in small areas around them. It's like we exist slightly outside normal dimensional boundaries, he explained. To anyone who would listen while connecting human-made devices to alien technology, our brains work on multiple quantum levels at once. We can hold space steady while others fight. The revelation changed everything about the battle. Human reality wardens like Sergeant Bae Young-soo stationed themselves throughout the fleet, a mere presence keeping space stable enough for alien weapons to function properly. Meanwhile, human pilots, with their unique ability to see across dimensions, guided attacks through the probability storms that surrounded void vessels. The fighting was unlike anything anyone had ever experienced. Ships would exist one moment and be completely erased the next. Entire sections of space would briefly stop existing, leaving holes in reality that made everyone's minds hurt to look at. Some battles happened in dimensions that had no names, where up and down had no meaning and time moved in circles. Dr. Lee Jinnah coordinated Earth's defense from the planet's surface, her consciousness linked to thousands of other humans across the globe. Together, they formed a vast network that held reality stable while the greatest fleet in galactic history fought beings that existed in the spaces between existence itself. "I can feel them," she whispered to her assistant, her eyes closed in concentration. "The void beings. They used to be like us, but they chose to become something else. They're not evil. They just believe that everything should return to the peaceful emptiness that existed before the universe began." The battle raged for 3 days and 3 nights. Earth's sky filled with lights that had no names as ships, fought in dimensions humans couldn't see. Sometimes the fighting would spill over into normal space, and people on the ground could watch alien vessels dance around creatures made of living darkness. Captain Ju Dongmin led his mixed squadron through a reality storm, his human eyes guiding Zephyrian and Korthak ships toward a void vessel that kept flickering in and out of existence. "Target is shifting to Dimension 7, he called out. Zephyrian led. "Adjust your quantum frequency to match my readings," Kort Dagswing. "Prepare to fire on my mark." The alien pilots couldn't see what he saw, but they had learned to trust human perception completely. When Ru gave the signal, 6 different types of alien weapons fired at the same empty-looking piece of space. The void ship materialized just long enough to be hit, then exploded in a burst of unlight that made everyone's vision go strange for several minutes. But for every void ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to appear. And all the while, the Entropy Crown continued its work on the moon, turning Earth's oldest companion into something that could unmake reality itself. The breakthrough came when Dr. Kong Soo-jin made a desperate connection between Earth's global communication network and the quantum field generators the aliens had brought. Suddenly, every human on the planet could feel what the reality wardens were doing in space. "We're all connected now," she announced over the emergency broadcast system. "Every person on Earth is helping to hold reality together. Just think about existing, about being real, and you're helping our people in space. Children in schools, workers in factories, families in their homes, all of them suddenly became part of the battle without leaving the ground. 7 billion human minds linked together in a network that made space itself more solid and real. The void. Hegemony's leader seemed to sense this change. The Entropy Crown stopped its work on the moon and turned toward Earth itself, as if realizing that the planet wasn't just another target, it was the foundation that held everything else together. The final battle was about to begin. The final battle did not happen with guns or explosions. Instead, it took place in a dimension that existed between thoughts and dreams, where Captain Kim Haeon found himself face to face with the leader of the void hegemony. The being that had once called itself Emperor now existed as pure entropy given form. It looked like a person-shaped hole in reality, outlined in darkness that hurt to perceive. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Cannot stop the return to silence. It whispered across probability waves that made Kim's mind ache. All complexity is temporary. All order must eventually collapse. You're simply helping the universe return to its natural state of peaceful emptiness. Kim felt the consciousness of 7 billion humans linked behind him. Their combined will creating an unbreakable foundation of ordered reality. Children dreaming in their beds, workers thinking about their families, elderly people remembering their lives, all of them holding existence together through the simple act of being human. "You're wrong," Kim replied, his voice somehow carrying. "Across the impossible space between dimensions, chaos needs observers to define it. Order needs consciousness to maintain it. We are both the question and the answer." The philosophical battle that followed was fought in ways that had no words. The void hegemony believed that existence was suffering, that consciousness was a mistake, and that the universe would be better as empty, peaceful void. They showed Kim visions of a reality where no one could feel pain, fear, or loss, because no one existed to feel anything at all. But humanity showed them something different. Through the linked network of human consciousness, Kim shared the memory of every laugh, every act of kindness, every moment of wonder that had ever existed on Earth. He showed them a child's first steps, couple's wedding day, friends sharing, a meal, scientists discovering new truths about the universe. This is why existence matters, Kim said. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Because in all the emptiness of space, consciousness found a way to create meaning. The Void Hegemony's leader paused, and for a moment, Kim could see what it had been before its transformation. A being not unlike humans, who had once loved and hoped and dreamed. But it had chosen to abandon those feelings, believing they caused only pain. "You will suffer," the entity said, but its voice had lost some of its certainty. "All conscious beings suffer. You offer an end to that suffering. You offer something better," Kim replied. "To build something beautiful, even knowing it won't last forever." The battle of philosophies raged across dimensions of existence that human language couldn't describe. Other species throughout the galaxy felt it as a tugging in their minds, a question being asked about the very nature of reality itself. Then something unexpected happened. Some of the Void Hegemony's followers began to remember what they had been before their transformation. The network of human consciousness was so strong, so full of affirmed existence, that it began to affect the beings who had chosen emptiness. Several void ships simply stopped attacking. Their crews, reminded of what it felt like to be truly alive, couldn't bring themselves to erase other conscious beings from existence. The Void Hegemony's leader realized they faced something unprecedented, a species that could exist simultaneously, in multiple states of reality without losing their essential humanity, where other beings had to choose between order and chaos, between existence and void. Humans somehow contained both possibilities within themselves. The war ended not with destruction, but with a new kind of balance. The Void Hegemony retreated. To the galaxy's edge, their expansion halted by humanity's reality-anchoring abilities. They couldn't be destroyed. Entropy was a fundamental force of the universe. But they could be contained by the equally fundamental force of conscious will. Some of the void beings chose to return to their original forms, accepting existence with all its pain and joy. Others remained in their transformed state, but agreed to stop trying to unmake reality for everyone else. Few disappeared entirely, perhaps finding their own answer somewhere between existence and void. Earth became more than a neutral zone. It became the galaxy's quantum foundation, the point where reality was strongest and most stable. The old enemies found themselves working together in ways they had never imagined. United by the understanding that existence itself was more fragile and more precious than they had ever realized. Admiral Park Sujin stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt orbital station, watching as ships from 100 different species moved peacefully through Earth's system. The war had been a storm that nearly consumed everything, and Earth had been its eye. But more than that, humanity had become the force that shaped the storm itself. The galaxy was quiet now, but it was a different kind of quiet. Not the exhaustion of endless war or the emptiness of the void, but the calm of a system finally in balance. At its center, Earth continued its watch. Humanity serving as the universe's unlikely guardians of reality itself. Captain Kim Hyun, older, now and bearing the mental scars of dimensional combat, looked out at the stars with a mixture of pride and determination. The storm might return someday in some new form, but it would find Earth ready, not as a refuge from chaos, but as the foundation upon which order and meaning could stand together. The war was over, but the watch had just begun.